Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Steelers Chat. This is episode 1 of season 2, and we have a very, very special guest today, Mr. Bryant McFadden, 2-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, 3 times. You went to the Super Bowl 3 times. Like, how is that? Let's start with there because everybody don't make it. Everybody that comes on the show is not going to have the Super Bowl experience. So how is that
Well,
to
D,
have that
number one, thank
special
you. Thank you for inviting me on with you. It's a pleasure. You know what I mean? You're a faithful Steeler, so I'm always here.
Mhm.
Number two, I only count 2 Super Bowls because I won 2. The third, I
Right.
don't necessarily count because I lost, so I don't think about. So I know I've been to 3, but in reality, I only been to 2.
Right. I hear you. I hear you. But the experience is not like no other. I
No
went to my
question.
first Super Bowl just experience wise, and I can't imagine doing, having the pleasure of doing it 3 times. But
Oh,
we're gonna talk about this team coming up because they're
yeah,
going to the Super Bowl, right?
no question. The last game will be in Arizona.
Let's do it. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. So, with the Bengals being the week 1 opponent, how hard is it to plan against a divisional rival week 1 with not a lot of film? I mean, you know them a little bit, but every year is a different season. How hard is it to game plan?
Well, actually, it's not hard at all because both teams are familiar with each other. You play each other twice a year, on both sides of the football, there's not a lot of turnover. Now, granted, with Pittsburgh, we know there will be a new quarterback, right? We just don't
Right.
know exactly who that guy will be. It hasn't been cemented into the organization about who the quarterback will be. We all believe we got an idea, but until they actually come out and say, this is our guy, then we got to wait and see. But and everything else in regards to Cincinnati knowing Pittsburgh, they know exactly what they like to do. I understand Keith Butler is no longer calling plays defensively, but let's keep it real. Some of the same things that we've seen from Pittsburgh in years past will still be their go-to in certain situations in the ball game. And offensively, granted, you will see a new quarterback, but Cincinnati knows exactly what Pittsburgh will do. They got some new plays, some new faces and new places offensively, but they know exactly the hardcore of plays they will see. So when you start off with a divisional opponent early in the year, week 1, week 2, it's not as difficult to prepare for them as it would be a team who you don't usually play.
Okay. Look, I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. But defensively, we had some changes in the secondary. Joe Hayden's no longer there.
Yep.
What do you see defensively in that secondary that you like about Pittsburgh?
I love the chemistry. Granted, you talked about Joe Hayden not being there, but you have Witherspoon. You still got Cam Sutton, who I expect to see big things from this year. You add Levi Wallace. You talk about Fitzpatrick, having him back in the thick of things. You still got Terrell Edmonds. DeMonte Casey is a guy who I really like. I don't know exactly what his status might be when it comes to regular
Yeah.
season play.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate loss for them with his
Yeah,
injuries. So I was rooting hard for that guy.
and I thought he would be a nice addition, but granted, is he out for the year?
I know he has to have surgery, so they're anticipating some long time out. He'll definitely be on IR. So
Yeah.
I haven't heard officially what that's going to be, but it's looking like a long-term thing because he
Yeah.
has to have surgery.
Yeah,
So
but outside of that, well, you still got some. The only new face in the secondary is basically Levi. Everyone else has been a part of the organization, and Witherspoon, they got him during last year during a trade, but yet and still, when he jumped into that Steeler uniform, he played real good football, and because of that, they made sure they brought him back. So I'm excited about the secondary, but secondary play is only as good as the front. When you got guys that can put pressure on quarterbacks, that definitely helps the secondary out.
That actually goes into my next question because Myles Jack helps that secondary so much. So what is it like having a guy like him up front? I mean, I know it's going to help Minka Fitzpatrick tremendously because he's all over the place and it kind of frees him up to do what he wants. But what's your point of view of that?
I mean, communication is always important in regards to being successful, not just on the defensive end, just throughout football. But Myles Jack is a guy who's a 3-down backer. He's a guy who's shown the ability to be impactful in coverage. He's a very, very instinctive, smart guy. And just his ability to talk it shows what type of value he can bring. Remember, this is a guy who they signed some months ago, and as throughout training camp, he had the green dot. You know what I mean? Talking and receiving the play. So that tells you the value that the defensive staff sees in him, knowing that, man, this is a new player to our organization, but he's caught on so fast that he can relay certain things to the other defenders. So when you have that type of communicator, that means a lot. Now, as you mentioned, some of the guys in the back end behind him, they trust that he sees the right things and he's able to get everyone lined up. And good linebackers can do that. I played with quite a few good inside linebackers, and their ability to talk and know what was going to happen before it happened was paramount to our success.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just so happy for them, just to be able to have that communication. Like you said, that is critical. That is key. Because using the signs, defense can't hear, they use signals. So just being a guy that can pick up on things, I've seen it already in him. So I'm looking forward to them this season, watching them develop and grow as a team. But on the other side of the ball, there is this offensive line. How do you having the defensive mind, how do you judge that?
Well, they didn't have the best preseason, right? We saw some struggles. But one thing I'll say, as a former player and now as a fan of the game, if you're going to struggle and put something bad on tape, allow it to happen during the preseason.
Yes.
Because let's keep it real. Watching the game of football, there are going to be highs and lows. The ebbs and flows of the game has been well documented. But if you're going to just struggle, put it out there during preseason. So now you know exactly what you need to improve on. There's no fool's gold when you have bad play during the preseason. It's black and white.
It is.
Right?
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. So now you know what you need to do. So me personally, some of the struggles that I've seen from the offensive line, I'd rather see it now than throughout the season. So now you can really dial in and say, man, listen, we're not as good as we thought we would be. Because let's keep it real deep. When we made all the moves on the offensive line during the offseason, everyone instantly thought we were going to see a better offensive line play.
Right. Instantly. Right. We just thought it was like snap of the finger.
Yeah. It's going to take time. So I think what we saw as fans was that this unit is not there yet. Not saying they can't get to that level of reaching the expectations that we all put for them, but they're not there yet. So that's my take on the offensive line. I do believe in the staff. I believe they will find the right five to put on that offensive line. And I do believe whoever the right five is, that staff will get the best out of those players.
I give them grace. Because one, a lot of those guys are new, right? And then one, you go from the guys that were there last year defending a guy that's not mobile to now, whatever you learned out is semi out the window, because now you have a guy that is mobile. So you have to use your hands differently.
Exactly.
So there is that transition there. And I give them grace, but it's like, okay, we could only give but so much grace, because we don't have an unlimited amount of quarterbacks on the team either. So we got to protect them.
Yeah. And I think they will, but also having a mobile guy actually helps the offensive line play.
Yeah.
Remember that Jacksonville game where things kind of collapsed fast for Trubisky? He was able to make things happen with his legs. Right.
We didn't see that much against the last piece of game against Detroit. It was like Mitch kind of stood there a little bit more than I thought he would. And so you got the holds, you got, he got sacked, and there were just some things that I thought that maybe he should have rolled out a lot faster, or maybe gotten rid of the ball a little bit faster. But maybe that was the plan. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe you want to do extremely vanilla things in the preseason so that people aren't looking forward to when this happens, then that will happen, so we can prepare for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I give them grace. Another guy I give a lot of grace to is Devin Bush. Have you talked with him at all or worked with him at all?
No, we spoke briefly when I was there at training camp. He's a South Florida kid, Broward County. You know what I mean? So there's always that tie there. But I think for Devin Bush, he just got to play football. Just turn it loose and play football. Yeah. I know last year me personally, I felt like he was never 100% healthy. Yeah. Because people have been very, very critical of Devin Bush. But there has to be something going on that we don't know for a guy to come into the NFL and just do what he did his rookie campaign before getting injured and now looking like a different player. That just doesn't happen just because. We know he's a good football player. He's been a good
Yeah, he
football player
is.
his entire life. That's why he was able to go to Michigan. That's why he started as fast as he did at Michigan. That's why he was able to be a first round like player
Yes.
because he
I
can
mean, it's
both.
in his genes. It's in his genes. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
So
Yeah.
I think there's an underlying issue. I don't know. Maybe he might not still be healthy, but he has to just turn it loose and play football. Go on, get back to what you were when you were in high school when football was just football. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes I think players put too much of the business side into the equation when it's all about knocking people in their mouth. That's it. And allow everything
Do
else
you
to
think
happen how
that's
it's supposed to
hard
happen.
now because of the contracts and social media? Like, granted, when social media wasn't what it is now back then. Like, do you think it's hard to kind of block out all those things and
Oh, it is
truly
hard.
just be a
It is hard
football
because
player?
the thing about social media, the thing about paying attention to news outlets, you hear more about you listen more in depth to the negative things they say about you than the positive things. And because of
Yeah.
what you hear, you sometimes believe a lot of what they say about you.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
they're telling you you lost it, you ain't the same player, you keep hearing that, eventually you might believe it to some degree. And that does something to your psyche, not just in sports, just in life in general, whatever your profession is. If you always hear negative things about you, you will start to believe those negative things. That's just how life is. That's just how the mind works.
Works.
That's
Yeah.
why, think about this. When you look at children, right? Children, they say what they hear and they repeat what they see.
Yep. This is true.
And
This is
as adults, it's the same thing. We're not that, we don't have that same mindset to kind of just be a follower. But when you keep hearing and reading bad things about you, you start like, man, I might not be that good anymore. And when your confidence gone, it's a wrap. So
Yeah.
for me, my advice to Devin Bush, number one, don't listen to outside noise. As Mike
Mhm.
Tomlin calls it, elevator music, and just have fun. Play. Just
Yeah.
have fun. That's it. Because
Every
mentally,
everyone I
wherever,
see.
yeah, and what I was gonna say, mentally, wherever he was the last year or so, go to a different place because it wasn't working for you.
Right.
So just go
Right.
to a different place and try something different.
I agree with that. Every time I see him, just make the slightest play. I just, I feel a sense to encourage because there's so much negativity out there. Like we just we gotta do a better job because we're all human beings. You don't go to work every day and do your 9 to 5 and at perfection. So we can't anticipate that for the guys that are doing it on the field.
Exactly.
So, but one guy that it has to be a shoe in is Mark Robinson. Have you watched this kid? Because I can't stop. I can't stop watching this guy make plays in preseason. Like, and even at camp, I really loved what I saw from him.
I mean, no question. I think that's the thing about a player like Mark is that he's unexpectedly did some good things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an element that good teams need to have is depth. When
Yeah.
you have players that you be like, wow, I wasn't expecting that from him. Now
Yeah.
you can go into the season with, you're extremely hopeful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because I think that was an issue for Pittsburgh on both sides of the football. I think depth was an issue. Clearly, we saw that at the linebacker spot, last year.
For
With everything that
sure.
happened with the injuries, we wasn't able to get away from that. We had injuries, at the offensive line as well. But when you have depth throughout your team, I mean, you can do big time things. And talking about a guy like you said, Mark, like wow, he's really surprised a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just linebacker play and special teams play. Like somebody better be on their P's and Q's. So
And and I like the fact that he is a player, like you said, can be impactful during special teams. He's
Yeah.
a football player. That's the thing about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh draft football players. They don't just draft a position. No, you got to have a position, but you got to be a football player because we might need your services elsewhere. You got to go ahead and do it with the open heart.
Yep. You because it's next man up in a lot of different places, and I think that's like Marcus Allen. He was able to find himself, a part of the squad, for the amount of years he has because special teams, he made his
Exactly.
mark there. So, if I learn after watching this team over all these years, if I learned anything, you need to be able to like you said, be a football player.
The
So
more you
that's
can
great.
do.
And the last area I want to focus on with you is the wide receiver room.
Mm.
That is another place where they have the depth. And I don't know what they're going to do. It's a great problem to have. I'm glad I don't have to make the decisions. But if you were having to make that decision, who would you keep?
Wow. I when I was in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago and watching practice and just watching the wide receivers, I was like, that's gonna be an issue because if you keep five and you keep six, who do you let go?
Who do you let go? Yeah.
Like, Gunner gonna have a spot because he's a returner.
Return specialist, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a returner. So he's gonna have a spot. What's my kid's name who had a big game yesterday? Last week's games, Detroit. 82?
Sims
has emerged to be
Vons as well. 80.
Vons. So listen, in regards to the wide receivers, you don't have to talk about the Claypools of the world and Pickens because we know they're good.
Johnson, yeah, DJ, like they're solidified. Even Pickens, has solidified his role. And
I know we haven't really got a chance to see Calvin Austin get off, but we know he's good.
Yeah, I think they might try to figure a way to IR him just to figure that out.
And think about this. Shoot, we had what's my guy who Anthony Miller before he got injured. I thought he was in the mix.
It was tough. And Myles Boykin, so who's also a good guy for special teams. I don't know.
So my thing is this: Deontay, Chase, George, for sure. Right? The fourth guy, because of his return ability, is Gunner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my opinion. I think he's safe.
Yeah.
You talk about Vaughn, Tyler Vaughns, he probably could be safe. Because the way how they utilize the motion and jet sweeps with wide receivers, he's showing the ability to really
tackles left and right too.
He can go get it. You talk about Myles Boykin.
Did I call him Austin again? Myles Boykin. I'm sorry. I'll be calling him Myles Austin for some reason, but Myles Boykin, if I didn't say that.
Myles Boykin. So Deontay, Chase, George, Calvin, Gunner. It's probably only going to be one more. I don't think they go in with 7.
So I think they might finesse Calvin on the IR to get another one in. That's what I don't know, because he hasn't been playing. Don't know.
Do we know how significant his injury is?
I don't know. I know against the first preseason game, he was in a boot. I haven't seen him in a boot. He hasn't fully practiced. He's been catching on the sideline. So I don't know the significance of it. They're really, really hush hush. They weren't even upfront about Najee.
If let's say your theory is correct, they put Calvin on IR. Gunner, Tyler, and Boykin probably would be it.
So no Sims.
It's hard. I mean, I don't know.
It's tough. It's really tough. Every week I struggle, and I'm glad that I don't have to make that decision. Best of luck to them, but I really wanted to get your opinion on it. I think we can. We know who QB number 1 is gonna be. I have it in my mind. I'm sure you've been at camp. You know how this machine works.
Trubisky.
Yeah, it's Mitch, and it's you. Like I tell everybody, you bought the Mitchell Trubisky insurance. You have to use it.
Yeah, so, I think it's Trubisky. I'm with you.
Yeah. But I want to thank you so much. Do you have a prediction for the season?
Playoffs. Just get into the tournament, as Mike Tomlin calls it.
Playoff win. So I can't. Now playoffs aren't enough anymore. I could say that all day, but it's like, man, we haven't won a playoff game in forever.
See, my thing is this: for me, is when you get into the tournament, anything can happen. The last few years that we made the playoffs, we weren't like that.
Yeah,
we were just able to get into the playoffs because we had good coaching and we made plays when we were supposed to make plays. Mm-hmm. Like if you go back to even, we had a home playoff game against Cleveland. Like it was, we were hosting a home playoff game.
We were on a decline.
Yeah. So now for me, when you factor in the turnover that we've seen a little bit with some of the youthful potential superstars that we have, like when you get there, you're like, okay, I can see us might causing some damage. Like the last few years, we get in, it's probably gonna be short lived.
Right.
That's how I felt, honestly. But right now, if we can get into the tournament, we just saw what a young team in Cincinnati did.
And Lord, they act like they won 14 games. They went 14-3. Like y'all only won 10 games. But anyway.
Yeah, but that's Cincinnati.
We don't have enough time to talk about Cincinnati. Maybe another day.
No doubt, no doubt.
But I want to thank you. Thank you so much. And you're always welcome on the Steelers chat. We'd love to have you back as we get through the season and talk through some things. So thank you so much. And please tell everybody where they can watch your show and where they can follow you, please.
Well, CBS Sports HQ is where I'm faithfully, talking football collegiately and NFL fantasy gambling related content. I have my own podcast, All Things Covered. If you're a Steeler fan, please subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. We also have a YouTube page. My most recent episode, Steelers GM Omar Khan was my guest. Nice, candid conversation. We had quite a few Steelers: Najee Harris, Mel Blount, Jerome Bettis, Larry Foote, Ryan Clark. We have it's been a laundry list of former Steelers and current Steelers. TJ Watt that I've had the luxury of having on the podcast. So give us a listen. Like I said, tell a friend to tell a friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody, please go check him out. Again, thank you. I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing with CBS, and we'll be checking you out for sure. But thank you so much. Have a great one.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.